Okay, so today I'm going to be making sweet and sour meatballs. It's a recipe I got from lacremdelacreme.com. I will link it below. I do adapt it just a little bit. I prefer to use frozen meatballs than to make my own. I really don't have time for it. I really like the Kirkland meatballs from Costco, and I'm going to use like half of this bag because I tend to make things in large batches, which makes things easier for my family. I'm going to be cooking it in my trusty old crock pot, and you'll see shortly the timer doesn't really show, but I'm used to my crock pot. I'm going to set it on low for 4 hours while I'm doing an online course today. Ingredients that you will need: white sugar, soy sauce, apple cider vinegar or white vinegar, ketchup, cornstarch for at the end just to thicken it up a wee bit, onion powder, garlic powder, a little bit of crushed pepper flakes, you can leave them out if you want, and pineapple. Usually when I make this, I add carrots, celery, onions, and peppers. The peppers get really soft in the crock pot. I'm not going to bother with the veggies today because I really don't have time to prep them, so I'm just going to do a stir fry on the side later on, and I'll end up serving it with some rice. So I'm going to go ahead and add the meatballs into the crock pot and get started on the sauce. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to add into the pot here is the sugar. I typically double the batch for the sauce part anyways, but I'm not going to use quite the amount of sugar that the recipe would call for because I still think it's a lot, even though it's a less sweet version of this particular recipe. So I'm going to put a cup of sugar in instead of a cup and a half. Next, I'm going to add a cup of apple cider vinegar. And I'm going to go ahead and turn the heat on because you want the sugar to dissolve. Next, I'm going to add a 1/4 cup of soy sauce. And a 1/2 cup of ketchup. I will use my spatula to scrape the rest of that out. I don't usually cook with recipes, but with this one I do because it's not mine. Okay, I'm adding 2 teaspoons of garlic powder, a teaspoon of onion powder, and I already put the red pepper flakes in. That was a teaspoon of red pepper flakes. So the heat's on, and once this is all dissolved, I'm going to throw it into the crock pot. I actually like to use the pineapple juice from the canned pineapple as well. So I just decided to use 2 cans of the pineapple because it seems like enough. So why waste the juice? And I will bring this to a simmer. And once everything in there is dissolved, I'm just going to pour it over top of what's in my crock pot. Okay, so my old crock pot, which I've had for years. The lights don't work properly, but I'm setting it on low, and I'm going to go ahead and do 4 hours. I can see that that's 4 hours, even if you can't. And I'm going to add the sauce on top. So when I do the veggies in with the meatballs, this thing's practically overflowing, but it still works. Meatballs are already cooked, really, so you just have to heat it up. But since my course is like 4 hours today, I might as well run it for the whole 4 hours. Put the lid on and walk away. Okay, so I've got about 30 minutes-ish left on the cook time. Really, it's already cooked because the meatballs were fully cooked while they were frozen. But about 30 minutes towards the end, you're going to add your slurry of cornstarch and water. So it's 2 parts water to 1 part cornstarch. So in this case, it's a 1/4 cup of water and 2 tablespoons of cornstarch, which I'm not using a proper tablespoon to measure, but it's not really going to cause a problem. It works out to roughly the same amount. I'm just going to make my little slurry here, which doesn't take long. And once the cornstarch is all dissolved in the water, just add it into the crock pot. It didn't take long at all. And we're just going to pour that right into the crock pot. And I'm going to give it a little stir, just to sort of mix it all in with all of the liquid in here. So it's just going to thicken the sauce a little bit. It's not going to be crazy thick like what you get when you like order takeout, which is I think why this technically doesn't come out as sweet, because it's not going to make like a thick syrup. But it's still sweet from all the sugar. We're going to let that go for another half an hour. And this is the finished product. Meatballs are a little bit darker, probably from the soy sauce. You can see the liquid is a little bit thicker, but it's not crazy thick. So I might actually add some of that to the veggies I stir-fried. I honestly just used some frozen veggies because it's been that kind of a day. And sometimes you just got to do stuff to make your life a little bit more convenient. Like I said earlier, normally I would do a whole bunch of veggies in here with this. It would come right up to the lid. Kind of be a pain in the butt to stir, but I just didn't do it that way. So you can do what you like with it. It's a great recipe. I will put a link to the recipe that inspired me somewhere below.